Well, it's time now for Media Watch, and I'm joined in the studio by the one and only James Creedon. James, good evening. You're looking at the G20 summit online in photos and comments, in particular a photograph of Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin.
That's right. It's probably been the most shared image of the G20 summit and certainly in terms of the tete-a-tete sideline discussions. So they did have a chat for about an hour and a half on the margins of the G20 summit. You can see there what looks like quite a business-like moment, but this is the image that everyone is sharing. Now, the AFP here are just being very factual in their tweet, saying that the presidents are looking at each other, but actually most people are reading a little bit more into it, such as Ian Bremer here on Twitter saying it's almost like the prelude to a boxing match. The Sun in the UK said if looks could kill. The Drudge Report in the US said it was indicative of a Cold War. Meanwhile, BuzzFeed.com spoke of a death stare between the two men, and they rather helpfully dug out previous images where they didn't look particularly joyful to be in each other's company either. That was in the at a G8 meeting in 2013, and here you have the Paris climate discussions or summit last November, where they don't look particularly happy to see each other either. But I suppose this is the thing with photography, it can zone in on one moment, perhaps 3 seconds later they were smiling at each other, who knows. But I do think it's probably representative of the current feeling between the two men regarding...
They are remarkably similar images, aren't they?
Indeed, and certainly with quite a few diplomatic skirmishes on the table between the two countries, it's perhaps not surprising. So this is another image that has also been quite shared online. You can see here Vladimir Putin and Recep Erdogan looking quite chummy on one end of the photo, with Barack Obama sort of peering over in a concerned manner, you might say, or you might interpret it. Images have been juxtaposed then showing a similar type get-together last year in 2015, where Obama and Erdogan seemed somewhat on better terms, and indeed it has even been summed up in this image with a slogan, "When you see your ex with her new man." Anyway, I don't think there's romantic relations between any of the three, so that's reading too much into things.
Indeed. It seems even the hosts China are trying to sideline Barack Obama this time around.
That's right. A lot of comment since over the weekend about the fact that there was no staircase provided for Air Force One when it arrived in China, and in fact a lot of people have been interpreting that as a deliberate snub. The Guardian, speaking about it here, they spoke to Jorge Guajardo, who is Mexico's former ambassador to China, who said he was convinced it was a calculated snub. These things do not happen by mistake. Everything is planned with the Chinese down to the very last detail. Bill Bishop, a China expert, said it looks like a straight-up snub. This clearly plays very much into the idea, look, we can make the American president come out of the ass of the plane, because in fact he had to come out of a rear door in the belly of the plane that is usually used for only on high security trips like to Afghanistan, the New York Times pointed out. Now, in the aftermath of that, there was a lot of reaction in the US. Even the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is a part of the Pentagon, tweeted, "Classy as always, China." They were forced to delete that tweet pretty quickly and actually issue an apology. But certainly feathers were ruffled by that calculated snub, as it was interpreted by many.
Indeed, it seems lots of diplomatic feathers being ruffled right now. Rodrigo Duterte, the Filipino president, who seems to come out with something outrageous every other day, has actually targeted his words this time at the US president.
That's right. So it's ahead of the ASEAN summit taking place in Laos starting tomorrow, and there was a meeting was scheduled between the Filipino president and Barack Obama on the sidelines of that summit, which may not now take place because he, in what we were just looking at earlier in a press conference, he appears to have called Obama a son of a bee. In other words, what he was referring to how he would respond to Obama if he were tackled on this very harsh, hardline crackdown on the drug dealing in the Philippines. But that is not very diplomatic language, I think it's safe to say. A colourful guy is how Obama responded, but as we just saw a little earlier, Obama may not now go ahead with that scheduled meeting. I suppose if you're being insulted prior to it, it's maybe not the best way of...
It'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do. Finally, British cartoonists zoned in on Brexit in their depiction of the G20 summit. Of course, been a major talking point there.
That's right. You can see various cartoons picking up on that. The shadow of Brexit being being cast there by the Union Jack in this particular cartoon. Meanwhile, for the Guardian's cartoonist Martin Rowson, the canonisation of Mother Teresa over the weekend was being used as inspiration here. Theresa May looking a little bit ghastly in that particular image, cradling, I think it's Boris Johnson.
I believe that is, yes.
In quite a terrifying,
possibly with a guinea pig on his head.
Terrifying image.
That is
anyway,
awful.
they're referring there also to trade deals that might be kind of replacing the now site. Well, it's not looking very likely to happen. The TTIP or TAFTA deal. So Britain might be having a separate trade deal with the US. So they're referring to that as well. But I think what comes across most closely there is Theresa May's face, and here also a reference to Mother Teresa or Saint Teresa, and on Brexit you have Angela Merkel there saying she'll need more than a couple of miracles. But of course that could be a case of pot calling kettle black,
well,
given
indeed.
news emerging from Germany about, of course, Merkel's ruling party, as this tweet points to, was beaten by anti-migrant populists. So Angela Merkel could herself be on the way out, some observers saying. So miracles all round would be probably
Tricky
appreciated.
times for everyone. Yes, James Creedon with Media Watch. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Emma.
much indeed.